I'm Ryan, this is my brother Daniel, and this is Rolls in the Family, and today we are going to be talking about our top board game plays of February 2025. That's the hardest thing about this channel, honestly. It's the early month, getting the year right.
Mm-hmm.
We're off to a good start here this morning. We enjoy playing board games, if you didn't know that. Played some board games in
Thanks for
February.
letting our fans
And,
know.
every month we like to come talk about it a little bit. What were the ones that stood out? What are the ones that got to the table and were notable to the point that we felt the need to communicate it with you?
I know. After playing these games, I'm like, the world needs to know about what just happened here.
Yes, exactly. Like, God forbid we didn't have a channel to
Can you imagine?
Think of what
Think how
the world
sad
would be missing.
the lives would be of our viewers.
It's true. And, if we didn't also give them the opportunity to check out these games for themselves, down in the description below, we will have links to make sure that you could also have these great experiences.
Like
Moments like these, really. We want to enrich your life. That's what we're about here on Rolls in the Family.
Wow.
We also would love to hear what you've been playing lately. Is there something that really just landed well in February? Tell us about it in the comments. But let us get on with it with Daniel telling us about his number 3 game.
Yes. So this was a delightful month. February was.
Delightful.
Some good games. And each one of these was just a great experience. And this is going to start with one of the things this last month was our mother was actually out visiting us for a while, and she's I think she's a bigger gamer than she gives herself credit for.
Yeah, she'll lull you to sleep with the comments that she doesn't understand what's happening in the game.
She throws that out there all the time, and then just whoops us around.
Yeah.
So this first game was one the heaviest one that we played together, and just an absolute classic. I mean, this is a game that each one of us would consider an absolute staple, and this is going to go to the Quacks of Quedlinburg. I tell you what, the fact that our mom and many others, we have such a wide range of people that want to play this game.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to the versatility of it, which is because you pull it out and it doesn't look particularly simple, No. There's a lot going on. There's a lot.
I've had multiple Quacks teachers. I have to reassure a few people at the table. Don't worry.
You can sense their heart is starting to beat faster. It's it's actually simpler than it looks. And it's a game that I find you pick up as you start going really fast. So, we had a really, really fun play with it. Part of the enjoyment of this is with the ingredients are randomized, every game. So you really just get kind of a unique setup. And so we actually played 2 games of it. And in the game we had I remember our black pieces. Those ones were fun because we got the one where when you buy it, you put it in the bag of the person to the left of you. And then whenever they draw it, you get to move your droplet forward one. Or no, it's sorry. I've got a picture. Immediately you place in your bag, and when you buy it, you immediately get to move your droplet forward one. And then basically whenever they draw it, you get a ruby. And so it's a way to get a lot of rubies.
And you're kind of helping them.
You are helping them.
Yeah.
Because you're giving them a piece that's obviously not a white. The other interesting thing about it is if the person who draws it, if it's in their last or next to last piece on their board, they also get a ruby. So they even you are helping them, but man, you're really. I got so many rubies. I was just pumping blacks into my wife's bag next to me, and she was drawing them all the time. And we had several other ingredients that also were good ruby kind of engines. And so, man, I was getting so many rubies. Then this one is so. It just can lead to some exciting moments. It's the blue that when it lands on a ruby space, you get the victory point value of the blue. So you get it's risky, you get a 4, but we had multiple times where my 4 blue lands on a ruby space, and I'm just like, yes. I mean, that's such a big moment. So yeah, it was we played it the first game, and then I think our mom was kind of like, okay, let's just keep the same ingredients because I finally now like know what everything does.
Yeah.
And so we just played with the exact same setup again, which normally I'd want to change it up. And we played with the same setup, and I was able to go and do a completely different strategy than I did the first game, which is again pretty sweet that even with the exact same ingredients, you can play it again and have a ton of fun. So I guess technically 2 plays of it. I don't know which one was better, but both combined together to make it to my number 3 of the month.
Nice. Yeah, I like some of the like shoot the moon strategies in Quacks where you're like playing for something that's really unlikely.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen multiple people pull off the there's the yellow that like doubles the next one, and getting that with a 6 pumpkin.
6 pumpkin.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's like,
gosh.
It's the dream there.
I know. It's really, there's nothing greater in life than that. Yeah. It's true. No, I know. That's always that's a little bit of the tension in the game is how do you want to stack your bag? Do you want to go for a more just kind of consistent, like, your bag's gonna do this amount, or do you go for a bag that can really have some high highs with the things that it can do? I think about also like the purple that gives you victory points based off where it lands in your bag. And so, if you got a setup that can get you going really far, man, those coming out deep can get you a bunch of victory points. So, man, Ryan, Quacks, what a good game.
One. It's a good game.
I was originally going to try to play with the Alchemist expansion.
The Herb Witches? I don't think you have the Alchemist.
Yeah, sorry, Herb Witches expansion. But we pivoted against that. That's the one downside. I play this game so often with new people, or people just newer to it, that I don't know if I've played that expansion of I played it with you, but I haven't played it myself. The thing to remember, though,
is the Herb Witch's abilities is just one module in that expansion. Because you do use the Loco Weed, right? Like the
that
Loco
is true.
Weed.
Yeah, we
and
just
that's
don't
a really
we don't
nice
use,
addition.
Yeah, we don't use we haven't used the
actual Herb Witches.
The actual Herb Witches. Yeah.
Because it also came with just more books, so you've probably used abilities
we shuffled
from
all
it and
that
stuff.
in.
So
yeah,
so still a good expansion, even if I'm in a bit of the same boat. If I've played with the Herb Witches, but it's not very often.
Yeah.
Because I gotta have the right group.
Right.
Cool. My number 3 is one a game I love this game, and I don't get to play it all that often these days. But I've always been like, as my kids get older, like this is a game. This is just going to be an evergreen game in my collection. There'll be times where it does get played more, and I think especially as my kids get older, it'll get played a lot. This is Crokinole. So Crokinole is, pushing the boundaries of what we call a board game. It's a tabletop game. You put the big thing on the table to play it, but it's closer to something like shuffleboard with flicking these discs on this big wooden board. And so Toby, my 4-year-old, and I have been playing it a little bit more, which has been fun because we can kind of handicap it that he just gets all the discs and I only get like 8 discs or whatever. So it's a little bit more even. But that actually isn't my top play of Crokinole of the month. It was actually that I was playing it with him before we were having some people over to our house, a group over, and not a group to play games or anything. But I had it out playing with him when people started arriving. And it was a very cool dynamic to see, because it's such an easy thing for new people to come up and kind of watch and understand what's happening. And you kind of tell them, the rule if you have to hit the other person if they're there or whatever. And so the way the night went on, it turned out that then there was a group of 4 of us that went back and played 2v2 Crokinole. And it's been a while since I've played the 2 versus 2, and I always think of it as like, 1v1 is the most fun. You get to take the most shots. It's more interesting. It just is. It's the best way to play Crokinole. But man, was I reminded how fun 2v2 Crokinole is. And just was so perfect for the situation of we're just sitting around, it's allowing us to play this game together that has almost no learning curve and no you're not engaging the strategic thinking side of your brain. It's everybody, flicking these shots and you're getting amazing shots. We were laughing a ton because there's so many funny moments where, somebody just keeps just banging right off one of the pegs. And they just cannot.
Yes.
And so it was just, I think, a big reminder for me of man, I need to remember this is a 4-player game in addition to a 2-player game. And in the right setting, especially in kind of a more casual party setting where it's not let's sit at the table and play board games. It can really be a good fit. And we played multiple games of it in a row. And so, I've had a lot of joy this month just seeing Crokinole get played more because I really, really do enjoy Crokinole. But yeah, it's a really good 4-player game.
Well, and you know what's interesting is 4 players, because you sit across from your partner, right?
Yes.
So that's a different dynamic. In normal Crokinole, you're only on one side.
Yeah.
Whereas now you've got a partner who's got a different angle, so certain shots are maybe more or less accessible because of that.
Yeah, it's almost like nothing's safe because usually when you're playing 2-player, you can get your discs in places that are pretty hard for the other person to get. But now your opponents are crossing you.
Yeah.
And so it's harder to, hide from both sides, or it still happens sometimes.
Right.
But yeah, it just, I don't know. It's what this happens sometimes with games that you forget that it works well in a certain situation or a certain way or at a certain player count. And getting it to the table again makes you go, oh, wait a second. Why have I not been pulling this out more, in this type of situation?
Did you guys win the 2v2 game?
We did. So, I mean, obviously the caveat here is all the 3 other players
You're
have
the
never
best
played
Crokinole player in the world.
No.
That's the caveat.
But compared to 3 players that have never played before, now I was rusty for sure. I hadn't played in a while, which was probably good because I was. Afterwards, I was if I had been playing as effectively as maybe I had been in my prime when I was playing some of these one-on-one games,
the glory days,
the game probably would have been less fun for the group.
Yeah,
but it worked out well.
You're not very fun to play Crokinole with. I'll just say that.
Yeah. You just got to practice.
I know. That's the problem is I actually really enjoy Crokinole, but I don't own it. So let's sit down and play my once-a-year game of Crokinole, and Ryan just skunks me. I'm okay.
Yeah, it's one of those games. It's regardless of what your skill level it is, it's fun to play somebody of similar skill level. We feel that way with a lot of abstract games and stuff.
Maybe me and Toby can play sometime.
Well, you joke, but
I'm not joking.
when they started coming and I was playing Toby, we actually switched out and had someone else play Toby with the same handicap, and Toby actually won.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was a good example of
Look at that.
That handicapping can make, because basically you finish all your discs and then Toby at the end gets 4 shots, free shots to try to reclaim the board.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
that's a
fun.
really great handicap.
It is
option.
I actually it would be a good video sometime is non-kids games that are the easiest to handicap.
Yeah.
To balance it to play with kids.
Right. Agricola, you only get one person the entire game.
That would be something, wouldn't it? Day laborer again. We're really not making a lot of progress. All right, that's enough Crokinole. Let's get on to number 2.
Yes, that's right. So my number 2. Man, Ryan, this game from when I first played it with you, because you owned it first, to now where I actually own it, it is amazing how much my just opinion on this game has transformed. When I first played it, it was fine, simple game or whatnot, to where it is now, in my opinion, and I think according to a video we've made, one of, if not the best family accessible board games out there. And this is going to go to Seven Wonders Architects. Man, I love this game so much. So again, we had our mom out, and so this was another one of the games we got to play.
She likes that game.
Yeah, she really likes that game, and we're playing it 3-player. And first of all, the fact that it works really well anywhere from 3 to 7 players is just so nice. But man, it's such a simple game. Like it's just, card on the right, card on the left, one in the middle. You're building up your little, wonder in front of you. But I don't know what the decision making in that game is so fun for me. I just love the that decision of right, left, or center, and it makes it really accessible. The game moves really fast. Like everyone's it's just like, boom, take my turn, and so you're just flying around the table. We played many games of this. Could we just be like, oh, let's grab, either let's grab some new wonders. Let's play again. Let's, we just kept going and going. And so we had a bunch of fun playing this game. I think about now with kids getting older, like this is going to be an incredible one to, one of the earlier one of the games we own that you can really teach early on because the rule set is very simple. There's very little they can do to cheat in this game. Like they may not
and
be
it's a great. I mean, that's why I had it so high on like my family game list. Was it's a great game to pull a younger kid into like an adult game, like because the player count's high enough that often you have an open slot for it, and then like it really does like cater to both audiences. Like the kid doesn't likes it, but like we've played this with lots of adults and
it's so true. Honestly, what sold me on it was, again, when I think I've said this before, but when you were here this last summer and it was like me, my wife, you, and your son Toby, and this was by far, because most time when you play a kid's game, you're playing mainly for the kid to have like fun in the game and your shared experience with him, but the actual like gameplay itself isn't that.
You would prefer there to be more going on.
Yeah, this was the first time I had experienced that with like your son, of a game where it's like he's enjoying this immensely and I'm enjoying this immensely. Like and that's just an amazing moment. Like one of the first games where you're both in this place of enjoying the strategy and all of that. So it's such an easy one. Like, man, you have a large group and it's such an easy one to want to pull out because the teaching is super simple, and all of that plays fast with the, just moving around the table. So yeah, I got this one. Was it my birthday? Or no, it was Christmas this last year. Yeah. It was, our sister's boyfriend gave it to me. So, and yeah, just a absolute staple. Absolute staple in the collection. So there you go, Ryan. A light game, but
it's a light game.
So good. It's so good.
It's a good one to have.
That was my number 2.
Yeah, I more and more am entering that season with Toby, who's almost 5. But we've put in the work, I'll tell you, as far as like playing a lot of games and lots of kids' games.
Part of his household chores.
Yeah, laying the road for us to get to some. But it is very fun this season. We're kind of entering of like a lot of the games we play now together are more in this category of like, oh, I really do enjoy this game as well. So it's definitely a lot of fun. Cool. My number 2 is probably the hottest game in my collection for me personally. Like it's been,
what do you mean by hot?
Hot, like, it's just like a little newer desire to play it. Oh. It's just like, this is not literal, not I don't know other ways you could interpret this, but
attractive.
This is one that I've only had for a couple months, but I've gotten it played quite a few times for how long it is. And this is going to be another full 3-act playthrough of Slay the Spire, the board game.
Ryan, I feel like this is going to be like the new Agricola of just this is in every video
keeps coming up in every video.
It should get banned after a certain amount of mentions.
If you watch our channel, you do get a feel for what's hot, right? Like when there are games that show up multiple months.
Very true.
Maybe you get sick of it, but we're nothing if not honest on this channel. And honestly, I have been loving Slay the Spire. Got to play it again with a friend of mine that had already played it with me and is kind of an ideal gaming partner for a 2-player game of this.
Yeah. You're talking about me, right?
Yeah. No, not Dango. And he's also played the video game, so familiarity with everything. But just, this time we were playing, the first time I had played with him, we were the Ironclad and the Silent, kind of the first 2 characters. Well, this time we played, I was the Watcher and he was the Defect, the other 2 characters. And it's like, that changes so much, like, of your experience with the game, just which character you're using. And this game specifically just saw so much again of the strength of Slay the Spire being moved into this cooperative setting, because there's this new element of, I'm not just building my build. We are trying to complement each other's builds and build this like overall build that can perform well. And we saw this very well in this one because my friend had with the Defect this strategy that was very much about getting a lot of powers out over the course of the battle, and then would get really, really powerful. You would get the electrodynamics one that I think your lightning orbs start hitting everybody in the row and all the but it's all these things that it takes some time in the battle for that to all get kind of set up. On the other hand, I was the Watcher, and I had a relic that in the very first turn I had plus strength, but it was only for the first turn. And then I had lots of stuff that allowed me to go into Wrath with the Watcher. That means you do extra damage, but you take in the board game version, you take damage at the end of every turn that you stay in Wrath. And then I had a lot of big attack cards and stuff. So my build was very much this build that could come out on that first turn and just smack things. And it complemented each other so well, because it was okay, you need a little time to get going, and in the late game you're probably going to be what just wrecks everything. But I can get us through that early game, and knock out a few key enemies to make it manageable as we go on. I had the Ragnarok one upgraded, which does 6 individual attack ones.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's awesome with strength, because strength increases every one of those.
Oh,
so if I would get that in my first hand, it's well, I can just nuke somebody. And so it was so fun. We played on Ascension 1, which you start going up these it's similar to the video game where each ascension level adds a new thing that makes it harder. It just keeps making the game harder. It's just difficulty rankings. But we played on Ascension 1. We absolutely dominated by the end of this. It was one of those where Act 2 is okay, that was kind of close. But then we got a few key things to just take our builds to the next level. And then it was just oh my gosh, we steamrolled the final stretch here, which is fun. It made us, wish oh, we could have been on a harder Ascension, or we haven't played yet in the board game version, the Act 4 where you can go on and fight the heart, which is a thing in the video game. But yeah, I can't deny it was one of the best plays of the month. I mean, it just was so fun. That game brings so much fun with the upgrading and the cooperative play.
Yeah.
I don't know I think we were closer to 2.5 hours, which is really quite good. With 2 players that know the game, that's a lot of game to get in under 3 hours.
Yeah.
And even though I've played with both these characters in this game before, the builds we ended up with were so different than builds that I've had before. And that's really the beauty of it, is even playing the same character, the relics, the car, everything comes together to you forge a new path every time. And it's great fun. It's great fun.
Well, as of recording this video today, it is Nerds Day over at Game Nerds. And I am really hoping Slay the Spire.
Slay the Spire.
That will be the most instant buy.
I would be surprised.
I would
be surprised
since it's new. But no, that's a must own. It's incredible. Yeah, I feel like we really just can't speak highly enough to how well it's gone over. I think the biggest testament probably is the fact of how many times you've played it already, because again, not a short game. So
not a short game though. I'm so impressed how low the rules complexity is, and honestly, it's pretty quick setup.
Yeah,
like playing it now, having played again, it's like here's your starter decks and your upgrade decks to shuffle and put to the side. Pull out the first board, randomize the things. I mean, we were up and running very quickly, and those first battles go very quickly. It just, I can just see.
But by playing Slay the Spire, you're not
Slay the Spire is a different game.
By playing that game, you're choosing that over a bunch of your I mean, we talk about this is one of the toughest categories, of these just bigger, longer games because they're some of our favorites in that space. And so, the fact that you would want to keep going back to this amidst all the other ones that you could choose.
And we'll see in the long run. I mean, it's the new hotness right now in my collection compared to some of the ones that it's directly competing with. But I do too.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pretend like this is the jury's out on whether Slay the Spire is gonna I'm pretty confident it's gonna be a long time favorite in the collection.
So good. Very nice, Ryan. So we're moving to my number 1 of the month. Is that right? Wow.
It seems that
flying here. My number 1 of the month really wasn't even close. This is I feel like I'm now really starting to get to experience the fullness of this game. I got 2 plays of it, and it is just I'm really starting to see how incredible this game is and how much I love it now and have potential to love it even more going forward. This goes to Arkham Horror, the card game. So we were able to start the Dunwich Legacy campaign with a buddy of mine. So we're playing 2-player. And man, just first of all, starting a new campaign, each of us are playing, a totally different character. So first campaign, I'm Wendy Adams, who can't, kill a monster to save her life. And now in this campaign, I'm Nathaniel Cho, who's a boxer who has 5 strength. And his only, a lot of decks have a mixture of the, I think, classes. There'll be a combination of blue and green or something like that. He only has blue, which is typically fighting stuff. So he is truly, I'm telling the guy I'm playing with, I'm like, if there are not monsters out there, I am useless. I need to just be running around and punching whatever. But man, if there's monsters, I am so fun to play with. One of my core, I've got multiple, weapons, whether it's my boxing gloves, which add to my fight. I've got, I think the name's Greta Wagner, an ally, but she's amazing because not only does she increase my fight, but whenever she takes damage, it's whenever I defeat an enemy, she can take 1 damage to discover a clue at my location, which is actually massive for my deck because
you're terrible.
I'm not discovering clues other ways. There's so many fun cards. I've got a punching bag, which if I ever overkill a monster, I do more damage than its health, which can be kind of hard to do. Typically on most, normally you're just dealing 1s, but I've got some weapons and stuff to increase that. I can place the extra damage as resources on my punching bag, and then I can keep stockpiling, and then as a one-time use, spend my punching bag to get all those resources. So I'm training, punching on it and getting more and more. So man, my character is just totally different, and experiencing that is a ton of fun. The guy I'm playing with is Jenny Barnes, which is a more just all around very kind of balanced character, although interesting because he can upgrade, I believe, any of the 4 classes, or get any of the 4 classes in deck. So where I'm pigeonholed to 1, he can really go any direction, which is kind of cool. So we played the first couple scenarios, won the first one, lost the second, but man, Ryan, This game is
Yeah.
just it's
Well,
so
in the
enjoyable.
campaign stuff, it's got the nice like fail forward
Yep.
mechanism of like you're always moving forward. It's just going to change, potentially even change what scenarios you're going to be doing and like what the setup is for things.
Yeah, and
so-
I don't want to, I'm not going to spoil anything, but
good because I'm probably going to play it.
Yeah,
at some
but
point.
there's like things that you think, oh, that's okay, that's not going to have an impact or whatnot. A decision, let's say.
Yeah,
in the moment, it's just like, oh, that's interesting, not going to have an impact. And then, of course, like, you find out later that, just everything's connected and decisions may not seem like it matters now, but then down the road, it's like, oh my gosh, like, because we did that, now this happens. Really, really fun. So, man, there is so much joy in knowing that you love a game and there's so much content for it,
Yeah.
like to know that, like, I mean, obviously I think both the guy I was playing with and I would agree that like it would be fun to just get different characters and play a campaign we've already played before. Like it's, like that would be fun, but there's enough content. You don't even really need to. You can just keep getting the next thing and whatnot. I have so many characters. I don't even know how I'm going to play them all. Since, you're committed, I guess maybe that's a little bit different, almost a little bit of a challenge compared to like Lord of the Rings, where it's not a campaign. So you can try different people.
The Lord
quicker.
of the Rings has more campaign stuff now. And and there's just a little bit of like, you usually are building the decks for these characters. So it's like, oh, if you want to use different characters, it's like, well, I'm going to completely rebuild the decks, which is a little bit more of a commitment to sit down and like completely rebuild it for new characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely, it's like you'd have to play a bunch of campaigns, right, to like actually play all these different characters. Like if that's the way you're playing the game with, that is the big difference. Is Arkham Horror, it's like it is the campaigns. That's the game. There's really no other way you're gonna play. Lord of the Rings, you can like kind of be doing campaign things, or you could just do standalone things.
Right.
But I tell you, you do get some advantages with that with Arkham Horror. Of like, I think of like things that we've liked in some of the legacy games we played, which we've certainly cooled on legacy games because, I mean, the biggest thing is we just love being able to continue to play our favorite games.
Yeah.
And so, legacy games you kind of finish. But there's the things in legacy games where a decision you make like has permanent consequences on your game. And I feel like Arkham the Horror, the card game, the system allows them to do that similar feeling within your campaign without it being a legacy game.
Yeah, and it really, and I've even seen people online talk about it this way of, your first play through a campaign is really, you get a lot of the narrative surprise, right? Of you truly have no idea what you're walking into. But then every subsequent play is now you can maybe even raise the difficulty or whatnot.
Yeah, it's a little bit more about strategy.
Yeah, and like, hey, let's craft these decks and see if we can win this way or whatnot. And so it's a little bit more around the strategy. Maybe not full. I mean, there's different paths. There's still things you may have not discovered on the first playthrough. I know there's things in the missions we played that's like, oh, I wonder if we would have done that. What would have happened or whatnot. But I think the one concern was always how the replayability would be. One, that concern is gone because there's enough content that if you don't want to replay something, you don't really have to. But I think even if you do go back and play a campaign again, there's so many. The characters are so different, and man, playing a different character's deck when you've got your own, unique, items, an item for that character, the weakness that every character has its own unique weakness. Yep. Oh my gosh, which I don't know if this is maybe my feeling is Nathaniel Cho, the deck I'm playing. His deck is really strong, but boy, does his weakness, is it awful. I drew both that weakness and my random weakness back to back in the second mission we played, and it just ruined me. It was horrible. So
it's the fall of a tragic hero.
Yeah, I know. It really was tough. So we're having a ton of fun, man. Ton of fun.
Yep, I have anticipated that this year we would probably be hearing a lot more about Arkham the card game.
Yep.
See if it continues. Well, Daniel, you mentioned that on Slay the Spire, oh, maybe this is gonna be like the new Agricola, like with talking about appearing on the list. And maybe in the long run we'll see. But for now, that's not going to take that title yet because that still belongs to Agricola, which I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to.
Wow, Ryan.
Bring it in at my number one. I did not know you
got this one to the table.
Got this one to the table with a group of 4, which is that's really the dream,
that warms
right?
my heart. It really does.
Group of 4. We were just playing base game Agricola.
Right.
Everybody had technically played it before, but 2 of the players, it was like hadn't played in a long time or like played and was like taught not very well from somebody else. And so we did like a full rules teach and everything. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about this game so much, and clearly I love this game. And every time I play it, it's gonna, in all likelihood, if I'm being honest, be one of my top plays of the month. I think I was further just, again, impressed by the revised card set, and that every game I seem to be like using things that I've just never really used something like that before. There was some of this that was like not that exotic. So, for example, I had one that every unfenced stable at the end of the end of the game gave me a point. So I was basically trying to have a bunch of unfenced stables separate from my pastures, which was nice. I pulled off 6 stone rooms.
That was not an easy feat.
Not an easy feat, but primarily because I had the master builder who at one time can add a room to your stone. So I pulled off the 5 stone rooms and then just master buildered the 6th one. But I would say I had some other things, like I had like this beer card that like when I baked bread, I could also like make beer and get bonus points and stuff. But there's one card that I wanted to call out because it was really just like a unique thing. And it was one of those ones where it's in your hand and you're going, this would be really interesting to lean into this. Like, do I or do I not? And so you play it. It's called Foreign Aid, and it gives you 6 food just outright when you play it. Which is that like
it's good.
That in a given round
can
completely save you or just open you to like really accomplish something. Because it's like, okay, food's taken care of. I can just focus on expanding my house and family or something like all out. But the caveat here is when you play Foreign Aid, you now make it that the last 3 rounds, which is going to be the family growth without room, it's going to be the plow, fields, and sow, and then the renovation and fences are always those last 3 cards. I can't use them. Like, I am committing that I am unable to use those 3 cards. And so I have to decide, is what I can accomplish with the 6 food now worth it to shut myself off? But I also know way in advance that that's what I'm going to do. So if you know you're not going to, you can plan to like, okay, I know I'm going to have to do all my family growth the old-fashioned way. I'm going to have to build some
old-fashioned
way. Got to put in the work. So that played into why I was expanding my house the way I was, is because it's like the only way I get to 5 people is if I actually get to 5 rooms, because I won't have that option.
Right.
And so, it was an interesting decision to play it. I think I was able to play off of it very well because, like I said, that 6 food, I can't remember how early I played it. We were probably in like the 3rd stage or something, or round. I forget the terminology. But yeah, I mean, totally freed me up to really accelerate my, family growth food engine, which, I mean, that's how you win in Agricola, is like pulling off these things. So it just was fun to do that, right? Like I've never experienced that type of game of Agricola where it's like, okay, I'm going to shut myself off from some of the most powerful cards in the game intentionally to get a really big boost here. And it was fun.
Yeah.
My main food engine was the clay oven, was doing, a lot of baking bread with my making of the beer. Ended up... honestly, one of the biggest mistakes I think the other players at the table make is they let me just get almost all the stone. Like, there were like the stone accumulations. There was a round where it was like they got to like 4 stone, and I just took all of them.
Oh my gosh.
And so not only were they kind of now, none of them I think got to stone houses, but I was able to get a stone house, buy the well. Like if you have lots of stone, like you can find ways to turn it into points. And so that definitely was helpful in my strategy to just like squeeze out a lot of points down the stretch. But yeah, Agricola, man.
I was thinking about this, Ryan, like, we talk about how we love, the cards in Agricola are one of the biggest things of why we love it so much. And I'm just thinking even about like some of our other favorite games that have cards, like maybe Terraforming Mars or something like that. No game do you get a hand of cards and it makes you go, how might I use this? Like I feel like most games you get a card and it's like, oh, this is what it does. It's very straightforward.
It's very prescriptive. This is how you would use this
Whereas
card.
Agricola, it's like you get a card and you have to have creativity on how you're going to weave it in. Yeah,
because it isn't just how do I use this by itself. It's like, wait, if I do this, but also this other card, I guess that kind of would like let me do this thing.
And I think that's one of the things of why the replayability is so high and why we love it so much is, at the start of every game, you get dealt your hand of cards. And what do? We spend the next, near 10 minutes sitting in silence and just reading through a card. You don't do that.
It's not quite silence. There's a lot of grunting.
That's true. A lot of...
What? This?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. But seriously, like what other game...
Yeah.
Do you take
it's interesting because like you talk about something like Terraforming Mars, you're getting cards throughout the game. So it's very tactical reacting.
Right, that's true.
Agricola, you get everything up front, which makes it almost more like a variable player power. Like, you would get your board or your corporation or something. But it's like the coolest variable player power ever. It's like, here's a custom 14 card
variable player
power.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good way of describing it.
How are you gonna... And so I totally agree. There's a lot of games that do variable player powers that fall into the trap of making it too prescriptive. It's like, oh, I'm this faction. Well, I know how I'm playing this game because I'm the faction that's good at this thing.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's like, that can still be fun. But man, is it way more fun to get some puzzle that's like, okay, what is the right way to approach the game?
It's not clear. And there's multiple answers.
No one in the world likely has had this faction of these,
Right.
And it's up for me in this game to figure out how I'm going to approach it. And that we just find that to be the most exciting experience that we've had in board games.
And the other thing is, so you get the unique, 14 cards, but then because of how tight the worker placement is, like you can have a plan.
Yeah.
But you also have to be just as willing to pivot. And a card that maybe at the beginning you're like, there's no way I'm playing this card. Suddenly it's like,
I love that when you've tucked a card in the back as a like, do not play. And then later in the game, you're just kind of looking through and you're like, well, wait a second. A lot of things have changed.
I know.
A lot of things have changed since I wrote this off.
Yeah.
And this actually could play into it.
Yeah. I really don't know of another game where you get it all up front like that. And I guess your way of describing it like a variable player power really is more what it is than a game where you're getting tons of, a traditional, just getting tons of cards.
And some of the games that I can think of that come close enough are also games I really enjoy. Like I think of Lorenzo Il Magnifico, where if you're playing with everything, you get a crazy faction power, which they do a pretty good job of not being too, prescriptive. They just are like really wild. But then you also get the leaders with it. And so you're getting like a kind of...
How am I going to...
And honestly, Terraforming Mars has it to a certain degree of, okay, which corporation am I playing? We play with Preludes. Which Preludes am I keeping?
Yeah.
What cards? But Agricola, a lot of these things are like abilities, they're powers. They're going to affect your game. It isn't just a card I'm going to play. So it is one of those things like, if I see a game that has that element in it, like my potential interest in it goes up so much because I just know, for me personally, that combination of variability and like is just one of my favorite things in games. And so but not that many games do it the way Agricola does, honestly.
Yeah, and this is a perfect time for us to be talking about Agricola with all the recent news coming out. The special edition, Zombie Apocalypse edition. Tell you what, Ryan, that was not on my bingo card for 2025.
It was not on our bingo card. Awakened Realms is going to be deluxifying Agricola. We are curious. I'll peg us as curious at this point. I don't know that either of us is like feeling like we need to replace our treasured revised editions of Agricola. But hey, here's the thing. I'm like, even if it's not something I'm interested in, this campaign is going to get more people to play Agricola.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it.
And we've been here all along, and you know it. We've been championing Agricola way before it was popular.
Because here's the thing. Agricola came out in 2007. There are so many people that have gotten to the hobby in recent years that like should be considering Agricola as a game, that they should get. So I do like that a lot more people are going to look into it, are going to consider it, are going to get it, are going to play it, because it isn't clear on this channel.
We like it.
Far. We believe that it is a design that deserves all the praise. Hey, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed another edition of Ryan and Daniel just lavish praise upon Agricola. We can't help it. I'm sorry, but hopefully you enjoyed hearing about some of the other games here as well. I've got links to them all below. Also, some videos here that you can check out. We will see you in the next one.